Hello there, my name is Martin Henley. This is the Effective Marketing Content Extravaganza. And if you've spent a second here, you'll know I'm on a mission to give you everything you need to be successful in your business. If that is what you need to be successful in your business, is support with your sales and marketing. My view is if you've got your sales and marketing right, you have the money to fix all of the other problems in your business. So I'm here giving you everything I know about sales and marketing. I'm pulling in anyone I can find as part of the Talk Marketing series to extract everything they know about sales and marketing. And every other Wednesday, Melanie joins us and we look at the marketing news. And you're going to have to bear with us this week because we're neither of us very well. So it is the concierge of co-creation. She's mouthing this to me. It's that Melanie Farmer. Hello,
Yeah,
Melanie.
yeah, and we're
Yeah,
day 8 of COVID. Come on, people, we can do it.
we are powering through. We are 100% powering through. So you lost all last week to COVID. We haven't decided if I've got COVID or not. I haven't been tested. I feel like I've been hit by a van. So if that is a symptom of COVID, I kind of feel like we should all know what the symptoms of COVID are. Really, we should know if we've got it or not. But anyway, we're still breathing. We're still here. We're
Bad
talking about the news.
marketing, that's what that is. If you don't know, they haven't reached you.
They really haven't reached me. No, they really haven't
Oh,
reached me. Yeah. Good. Okay, good. So we're talking about the news today. We normally have a brag about, some achievement of the last 2 weeks. I suppose you've survived COVID.
yes, that's true. I mean, we have also, you might remember, we were shortlisted for an award. We've progressed to the next stage. So there's like 4 stages. So we're quietly happy with stage 2, and now we wait. And
Excellent.
then there's another stage, and then a final awards event. So
Okay.
we'll wait. But we also got nominated for another award in between. So we're now just waiting instructions for, like, we have to accept the nomination, and so we've
Okay.
done that. And then
Excellent.
they now fill in this form in triplicate. But yeah, what was interesting is that the Telstra award that we nominated for, they accepted video only. So there's no written, you just speak to camera
Okay.
and you get 3 takes, and that's it.
Wow. Okay, good. But you guys have just started with like two camera type stuff with your podcast. So,
Yeah, yeah, we're getting good at that. We
okay, super
think
cool. When do we see some episodes? Are there episodes out already?
we're launching in spring, so we've just been
In
kind of
spring? It's August.
yeah, September.
Ah, because you're in Australia.
Yeah, we're
Ah,
living
really hurt
in
my head working that out.
we live in the upside down.
You do live in the upside down. Okay, good. All right, cool. I'm looking forward to those episodes and I'm looking forward to talking to Paul on my podcast as well. So if we can get that scheduled, that would be really cool. My boast is I haven't really got a boast. I'm still here. I feel like rubbish and I'm still here. I'm still getting
That's
it done.
a pretty big deal because you're flat out delivery mode, right?
Yeah,
With
I'm flat
clients.
out delivery mode as well. Yeah. But the thing is, Clay's helping me now. So the last time I delivered for a week, the wheels came off for a month. This time, everything's just going on still, So we missed a video on Friday. We should be putting out WTFs, but we're not quite. But, it's much better. It's good. Consistency is the key. Consistency is the key. And yeah, this is where we are. Okay, good. So let's do the news. What's caught your attention, Melanie Farmer?
Yeah, a couple of things. There's something about who owns gestures and how that's being described as the emerging battlefield for brands. And so, goodbye logos, etc., just gestures. And the second one was just watching EasyJet and the airline and Spotify, the music platform, teaming up to provide travel recommendations based on listening habits. So I do like that idea, although just because I listen to Latin might not mean I want to go to Latin America. Who knows? But that is a really interesting partnership. So I think both of them have data and permissions with their users, but by teaming up, they're able, of course, to double down on that. So I think there's some merit in thinking as any organisation thinking about how they could apply that in their own world. Who could they partner with and inform each other? about interests.
Of course, partnerships are really important, I think. Okay, good. I've got a couple of things. I am singularly uninspired, I have to tell you. But the one thing that I've got is Joe Rogan has got crazy about the terms and conditions of TikTok. So he's spoken about that and caused a bit of a stir. People are surprised about what goes on. So I'm interested to talk about that. And I'm
Yeah.
interested to do a compare and contrast. Like, how does that actually compare with Facebook's terms and conditions or Google's terms and conditions? Those things. And the other thing, I'm not sure if it's marketing or not, but it certainly talks about the state of the world. The metaverse housing bubble is bursting. Let's not forget there are no houses in the metaverse. It's not real. So it really was a bubble. So maybe it
Even
really
if
should have
it's the
burst.
only way most of us will own a house, it's still not a house.
Yeah. And yeah, so it's interesting. So that's the story. But I think that's the least interesting of all the stories. So if we are going to do this in order, which do you I think the EasyJet and Spotify is probably the most interesting. So we should start with that. Then we'll look at what Joe Rogan has to say about TikTok's terms and conditions. And then we'll do your gestures. Who's winning the gestures game? I didn't know there was a gestures game. So we'll do it like that. EasyJet and Spotify, Joe Rogan upset about TikTok, winning gestures, metaverse housing bubble bursts. Good. Right.
We're on fire. So,
Oh, no. I'm
holidays.
struggling even just to have the conversation.
I
Okay,
think it was
good. So here it is. Do you want to read the story? Can you see
just
it from there?
right.
No, this is the wrong one. No, this is the
Correct.
right one.
There
Okay,
you
so
go.
this is at Little Black Book, so we don't
Yeah.
get into trouble with them. So what's the story about?
It's kind of interesting. They're partnering up because there's an appetite post pandemic, although we're very much still in it, of the world opening up and we want to head out. And so to harness the playlists and interests of users on Spotify, EasyJet has partnered up with Spotify to set up this campaign called Listen and Book. So lovers of music who might be listening to Italian music from say Venice or whatever um, can be targeted really, given suggestions for where they might want to travel that links to their what they're influenced by their taste in music. And this is probably the same as their taste in travel. So I thought it's kind of interesting that I mean, to my mind, we know where we want to travel, and it may not have anything to do with our music. But so I'm just interested in how this will work. Um, and but I like the idea of partnering to match customer interest to a quite different service offering music and offering travel destinations are two very different propositions. But I sort of think for those of us who are looking for new places to find customers who have interest in our own product, there's an opportunity to think about that and be inspired to do something along these lines. I do wonder if they're going to annoy a lot of people, but um, it's and look, I will say, EasyJet is not a premium brand. It's a cheap airline, so it's an interesting choice for Spotify to make. To be fair,
Yes.
I would have thought they'd partner with British Airways or something like that if they were going to do anything.
Yeah. And EasyJet, I think, is just destinations in Europe, is it? So it's not even like if I think about where the more interesting music in the world is, I'm not saying there's not very interesting music in Europe. Of course, there is, but the most, I mean, I'd think Cuba if I was thinking music and travel, or I'd think Rio de Janeiro for the carnival, or I really like Ethiopian jazz. I don't know if you've checked out any Ethiopian jazz. It's amazing.
I
Um,
don't think EasyJet fly there, so
exactly, that's what I'm saying. So it's
right,
extraordinarily limited. So like an international airline, like a properly international airline, might have been a better partner for Spotify. And so the interesting thing is, I wonder how far we have to read into this. So a jazz week in Malta, okay, nice. Primavera sound in Barcelona, or sunset chill out sessions sounds in Ibiza. All sounds pretty obvious. If you're listening to Ibiza chill out tunes, you might want to go to Ibiza. I wonder how far into this you have to go before they start claiming that there's some AI aspect to this that they know better than we do about where we want to go on holiday.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I kind of also like the idea that there's a win in it for Spotify in that it's raising the profile of the platform. Not that they particularly need it, but maybe catalogs of music or artists and so on. There'll be a symbiotic benefit. So I do think that there's not just there's going to be something in it for Spotify as well.
yeah, I would imagine that EasyJet are going to pay them some money. I would imagine that Spotify in this instance are just the media platform. I would imagine that's what it looks like. I can't imagine that Spotify went to them and said, "Look, what we really need to do is partner with EasyJet to give somebody data to decide where they want to go on holiday."
Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think all businesses should always be thinking partnerships. Um, they definitely should. You should be thinking about leveraging each other's audiences. That's always really good. This is just a little bit of a weird one, isn't it? I mean, do Spotify do have advertising, don't they, occasionally? So maybe EasyJet are an advertising partner of some sort. I don't know.
yeah, and I mean you can have premium to turn that off pretty cheaply, but most people, a lot of people won't pay for that, so they'll hear the ads. But they're also saying that if you like music that's like warm and dreamy, then you might like warm and dreamy locations. So they're kind of making a leap to, okay, you might not go to Rio, but have you considered Lisbon? So I think they're looking for ways to justify, I suppose, offering up. This is a place where you're going to get that
Yeah.
feel.
So they're saying here in a first in market collaboration with Spotify Unique Streaming Intelligence, that's the AI aspect, Spotify is making it possible for people to discover their holiday mood based on their listening playlists and get matched to tailored travel experiences across Europe.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I think it's a step away from like doing a quiz in a magazine
Yeah.
um,
It's
without
not
doing
very
it.
far though, is it? The thing
Yeah,
is,
you should, you're this type of traveler. You should go to this place, and here's a deal for you.
yes. And I think it's interesting. I've always felt like people know where they want to go. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know where you want to go on holiday, don't you?
In saying that, there's a lot of places that EasyJet goes that people wouldn't consider or think of.
Yes.
Uh, and so, as much as they say they fly to Barcelona, they often don't quite land there. They land just outside.
Yes.
So, um, so I think there's certainly some merit in this strategy for
I think
for
some merit. I think we're talking about it, which is merit. Um, but so if your music taste is calm, warm, and dreamy, why not explore the botanical gardens in Lisbon or visit a relaxing sauna in Helsinki?
yeah, and it's just a way to get in front of listeners of Spotify with the idea of travel and
Yes.
associating your happy feelings you get from your playlist with another purchase. So
Yeah.
definitely a beneficiary in there being EasyJet. But I think as well, um, it what I can't see that would not build loyalty unless you get really annoyed by ads, but you can turn them off by listeners of Spotify. I mean, I'm a listener, and if there were suggestions like that for me, I can't see that I'd be particularly annoyed by it. And so I can turn it off if I want to. But I like the idea that someone's working to use my playlist to say that's a definite sauna in Helsinki vibe you've got going. How would I know? Never been.
I've never been either. I think my issue with this is not that I've really got an issue with it, but it's a little bit tenuous, isn't it? I think if they were to partner with, I would imagine that there are music holiday companies that do
Yeah,
like
well,
that
festivals.
yeah, that tailor specific holidays around festivals like jazz festivals or classical festivals, or there's amazing music going on all over the place. So I would have thought, this is my final decision on this, is that really EasyJet's a bit of a skanky partner in this one. They could have done much better if they found a classier partner. And if they were because I'm sure that there must be travel companies who specialize in music holidays. Do you know what I mean? And they'll
Yeah,
tailor your whole thing around seeing different gigs at different times. And yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Do you like unreasonable amounts of violence and nudity? Then Woodstock is for you. Um,
yeah, or
I don't
something
know,
going on in downtown California if you're really into
right?
homelessness.
Yeah, yeah. This is definitely for the place for you. But I think it's potentially an experiment from Spotify's point of view. Like they could ramp this up, and I don't know that they have exclusivity on this campaign,
No,
but it's a good way to test the market from their point of view. And I think it's a good opportunity because travel went to sleep for 3 years, and now it's all of a sudden the fastest growing, of course, to recovery. And so, if you're Spotify and you're thinking, how do I get involved with travel? This is a great way to do it. So I think
yeah,
it's just a smart way of saying, when you don't know how you're going to leverage the sudden growth of any particular market, then Spotify's kind of showing the way and saying, well, you know, we do music, but look at how we've done. We can get on board with the travel bubble.
yes,
So it's a nice it's probably going to build confidence with shareholders and all that sort of thing. So just seeing that they're evolving, they're front of mind, and I think potentially an experiment they could ramp it up, and lessons for all of us in finding the right partners to rise up with other bubbles that are you know on a good trajectory. There you go.
100%. Okay, good. And I just think it's a little bit tenuous. I think they could have found a much classier partner than EasyJet. That's what I think.
I
Okay,
think that's
good. Let's go to story number two. Story number two is a little bit of video. It's Joe Rogan got on one. We're not going to watch this
The
for
Joe
11 minutes and 40 seconds. So this is a clip, but well, I'll let him tell you what happened.
Rogan experience.
Oh my God, I read TikTok's terms of service. I went down a TikTok rabbit hole yesterday.
Yeah, it's good.
I stayed home, smoked a little weed, and I started reading up on TikTok.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm going to read you this because this is so crazy.
Is it good or bad?
Bad.
So what are you saying? It's a bad place to be?
Listen to this. This is from TikTok's privacy policy.
All right.
It said, we collect certain information about the device you use to access the platform, such as your IP address, user region. This is really crazy. User agent, mobile carrier, time zone settings, identifiers for advertising purpose, model of your device, the device system, network type, device IDs, your screen resolution and operating system, app and file names and types. So all your apps and all your file names, all the things you have filed away on your phone,
Really?
they have access to that. File names and types, keystroke patterns or rhythms. So they're monitoring your keystrokes, which means they know every fucking thing you type.
Wow.
Battery state, audio settings, and connected audio devices where you log in from multiple devices. We will be able to use your profile information to identify your activity across devices. We may also associate you with information collected from devices other than those you use to log into the platform, meaning they can use other computers that you're not even using to log into TikTok. They can suck the data off that. That's what you're agreeing to when you download and start using TikTok. That's wild.
It's insane. My question.
Right. Is that wild? I think. I mean, I don't know. You respond. You tell me what you think.
yeah. Look, like you, I would want to see side by side how that stacks up. That does sound quite invasive to me, compared to the terms and conditions you get. Like, I'm just thinking about when I very first signed up to Twitter and Facebook and various other platforms, Hootsuite and all of that. They don't have anywhere near that level of access for, and you can turn a lot of that stuff off on Facebook, so that they don't own anything and they don't have access to a lot of things.
Are you sure about that?
So it does sound pretty invasive to me. Oh, go. Have you had a look at Facebook?
I haven't had a look at their terms, but I have.
Which would be the next privacy. Facebook privacy agreement, or Meta privacy policy. Is that what you're referring to?
I'm not referring to anything. What am I thinking? I'm thinking that a lot of that is pretty generic information, like your IP address, your location, stuff like that. Accessing other, like pulling a list of apps from your device. What does it really tell you? I don't know. It's been a long time, but I presented once to the EU in Malta, interestingly, about this issue of privacy, about this issue of... Oh, gone. Hello, you're back.
I'm back.
Okay, good. Yeah. So what was I saying? I was saying, yeah, I presented to the European Union once on this issue of privacy. And so I did read the Google terms and conditions. And I think, okay, so two things. So the Google thing is, like, they lay claim to ownership of your content, and they are allowed to use any content that you share on their platform. So if you use a Google messaging service, email, for example, to send pictures of your genitals, which I think young people do occasionally, to each other, then Google has the right to reuse those. It owns those, and it has the right to reuse those in any way it likes. Was the thing at the time. So I don't know if that's changed, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't changed. So this is pretty generic data stuff. Lots of the stuff that he's just listed there is stuff that's available to us through Google Analytics. So we know they're collecting data about the devices, etc. Not a list of other apps on your device necessarily. So I think more people, including Joe Rogan, should really have a better understanding about what it is they're signing up for when they do these things. The other thing is I've been teaching. So I've been looking at Facebook advertising criteria. Like, they know your marital status. They know if you're away from home on holiday. They know your income. They know absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? So it just
Facebook knows how healthy you are. Facebook knows I have COVID. Facebook knows my credit card information.
Yes.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that the Meta privacy policy state that he didn't just now, and that is because of what I share on Facebook. It doesn't mean that Facebook is publishing that anywhere or doing anything with it. It's what they do with it that counts. I mean, really, but they're not saying what right, but they are saying that hashtags, potentially my political views, all the games I play, any demographics, my education level, all of that stuff that I type in, if I choose to, into Facebook. They have all that, but they also can see my partner's product, services, and so forth.
Yes.
And purchases and transactions and so on. So if I have... if there's anyone advertising on Facebook, they can see everything that I'm doing with that partner. So let's say it was EasyJet and I buy a holiday, they can see all of that. Hard to know, like, what the danger is. What is getting, like, if I talk to my millennial friends, they're always really very upset by privacy policies. And I think I'm just not interesting enough, or like I just wonder, what does it mean? What's the risk here? And unless you've had, which I know many people have had their identity stolen, what is going to happen with this data? I mean, it could get into the wrong hands, I guess, is the thing to say.
Well, I think the danger is, if have you not seen The Social Dilemma?
No,
Oh my God. Okay,
no.
well, I mean that is junk anyway. That whole thing is junk. I think like they're basically blaming social media for the downfall of the American family unit. It's a bit weird. The danger is that I think the fear is that they're manipulating us to get us to buy things that we wouldn't otherwise buy. They're inducing anxiety in us, etc., etc. I think this is the fear, and then they are making our data available to third parties, and election rigging elections, etc., etc. All those things, right? So this is what I was talking about from Google. So it says in their policy, some of our services are designed to let you upload, submit, store, send, receive, or share your content. You have no obligation to provide any content to our services, and you're free to choose the content that you want to provide. Bear that in mind. It's your fault. Okay, but you might use that to upload, submit, store, send, receive, or share your content. So what's covered, what's not covered: scope, worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free. So basically, they give you a license. This license allows Google to host, reproduce, distribute, communicate, and use your content. For example, to save your content on our systems and make it accessible from anywhere you go. Also, Google has the right to publish, publicly perform, or publicly display your content if you've made it visible to others. What does that mean? If I've distributed a photo of my if I've sent
So
it to somebody, I've shared it to others. So they have the right to publish, publicly perform, or publicly display your content. Modify and create derivative works based on your content, such as reformatting or translating it. So it's interesting. I wasn't sharing that with you, but I promise you I just read that from the Google Terms thing. So basically, if you use their service to publish, share, store, etc., etc., then basically you've given it to Google. They can use it in any way they see fit, which is far more concerning to me, other than obviously they are going to share this information, TikTok, with the PAC. Is it the People's something Communist Party of China? Whatever it is, the government of China. But we know that Facebook and all these others are sharing their data with the CIA anyway, so it comes down to which government you prefer to have your data. I just think it's insane that somebody as well versed in these things as Joe Rogan should be, given that he's there taking $100 million from Spotify for his podcast, is so aghast at what's going on. Unless it is just this nascent, it's because the Chinese are doing it now that we're so concerned.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of think, um, it's an opportunity for him to dive in and interview people who know what they're talking about. And I'm not one of those people. I mean,
Yeah,
I
this other
like,
guy, the guy he's talking to is a stoner comedian like him. The other thing that astounds me about Joe Rogan is that he's just talking about smoking weed all the time like a 15-year-old. And
yeah,
he still has this massive. I mean,
and that,
I like
yeah,
him. I like him a lot,
he,
but
he does get the right people. Like he got, if you can say, pro vaccine and anti vaccine. He had them both. He had respected experts on both sides of that discussion,
yeah,
um, and so he does tend to not obviously take sides on something. So
yes,
I would love to see him dive into cybersecurity and that sort of stuff because it is really fascinating and it's a human thing. I mean, the biggest risk to anything in this space is the person with the password because nothing else is. It comes down to the person with the password, and that at the very top level is the chief information officer.
yeah.
at Facebook, for example,
Yes.
that's the person with where the risk lies, and so that person could be dangerous, um,
Yeah.
and that's where espionage happens. Is that it's in the end, it's the human who's been given access, and
Yeah.
that even if it's all the biometrics in the world, it's still that person. Are you watching the person? The person is the one who has been given the access. And so, of course, unless every person that works for you is perfectly loyal and well behaved and whatever, which is not true, and that is why we get breaches and so forth. It's down to the person with the password.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think it's just huge overreach. Like we've said this before, Google Analytics, nobody needs all of the information that Google Analytics is extracting. There is no use for it. They make it all available to us, and that's fine, but nobody needs it, so it is just an overreach. This might be an overreach on the part of TikTok. I mean, are you surprised to hear that TikTok can access that kind of level of data?
Um, I think so. I was surprised,
Yeah.
but I'm more surprised because I'm thinking, what does that mean? I don't really have enough of context to see whether that is. I mean, the thing is, at least they're saying it, because there's so much that's available that can be seen, that if you don't say, like, imagine that you're China, you've got to say it because the whole world is watching every move right now. so
Yes.
so I mean, credit to China, obviously China TikTok for what seems to be declaring in the public domain everything that they need to,
Yes.
um, which is probably not much different to any other platform. But it's just more, what do they have the right to do with that information now they've got it? So Facebook talks about research, that they're doing research on, and they're talking about part of their research also being protecting your privacy, ironically, by learning everything about you.
Yes.
But hey, it is, so they can verify you and so forth.
Yes. I think it's interesting that people are surprised at this point, and yeah, that's all I think. I think it's yeah. I think everyone really knows, apart from you and Joe Rogan, it seems.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd love to sit. I was working with a cybersecurity professor for many years on projects that she was involved with, and what interests me was that she wasn't. You think about a professor of cybersecurity, that person you would imagine would be in the School of Science and Technology or engineering. She was based in the School of Psychology. So what was interesting to me was, and to her, was that her profession, her role, belonged in psychology, because the threat in cyberspace is human. It's human behaviour. The person with the password and all that, versus
Yeah.
any other. It's a behavioural thing.
Yes. Well, that's
The computer,
interesting.
yeah. Well, the computer itself isn't, born malicious, and I mean, you can design it one way, but it's the human that does the bad thing
Yes.
and steals your details and spams you. That the computer is just doing what it's told. So it's actually the human who's coded that. I think we sometimes forget that computers don't get together and say, what we should do. It just goes, I'm being instructed. That's it. I have no opinion about this.
Yes. And this is the danger with AI. Um, Interestingly, my mate Kiru, from when I used to live in South Africa, is now the head of cybersecurity for South Africa. He's going to come on my podcast soon and talk to me about that.
Oh,
That'll be really
amazing.
cool. Yeah, that'll be really cool.
Oh, wow. Can't wait to hear that one.
Yes. Okay, good. Let's go on to the third story, gestures. I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
struggling. I'm really
Yeah,
struggling.
yeah. We can do this.
We
We
can
can
do
do it.
this. We're getting through it. Okay, good. So, strategy gram, winning gestures. So the gestures they've got here are rock, paper, scissors. You're going to have to work hard, I think, to get me excited about this one, Melanie Farmer. What on earth is going on?
Right. So what they're talking about is there are brands over the years who have owned gestures. So if you think about the Kit Kat, it's like, let's have a break. We'll have a Kit Kat,
Yes.
right? And there's a multitude of things like that where I could say the beginning of the sentence and you would finish it with a gesture. And so what they're talking about, like, so gesture has it's ancient. It's before we had language. And so it is really in neuroscience, we're more likely to remember gesture than we are to remember really anything else. So this is just an interesting story about how they're saying right now gestures connect us if we can get it right. And in globalization, I think, also kind of interesting that, trying to find gestures that are acceptable everywhere. Because they might be, so yeah, you can see here, finger licking good, fried chicken, which you wouldn't do now. So they've completely changed. They dropped that during pandemic, as you can imagine. And there's this little girl saying that the toilet smells bad, but you remember the little kid go like this more than you'd remember any other thing that they could show. Yeah, so I'm
Yes.
not sure, but I think it is interesting to think about the power of gesture and how this idea of fighting to own gestures. Do we think that Facebook own the thumbs up because they created the like button? And is there this idea of trademarking gestures? Because it's so associated, like colours have been, that you can't use UPS Brown for a logistics company anywhere in the world. They own Brown, but could you also own gestures? And say you can't use that. We own it. So it's just kind of an interesting slight shift from. I mean, I just haven't thought. I mean, I know there's like dancers that are owned on the internet. This is such and such as dance, and it's you can't. It's owned by somebody and has some copyright to it.
Yeah.
And so there's just this idea that of owning gestures, and then it got me thinking. Well, if We're Crazy might work, what would my organisation's gesture be?
Not
And
anything that you could use.
I imagine
Not
no. And
anything.
we've had a lot of discussions in the last month about our name, about crazy, and what it,
I
how.
saw Paul talking about that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, he did a survey.
What was the result of the survey? Do you know?
86% keep it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and the people who said we should change our name, they're not people that we know. So I don't think that diminishes at all their opinions about it. It's interesting, but it does make me wonder about, like we've just been talking about, because that word crazy, for us it is actually more about an idea that hasn't been accepted yet. However, of course, it has other connotations. So, but in terms of gestures, what could we possibly do that would be globally acceptable? And do we even need one? But there's certainly brands like Kit Kat who've nailed it in terms of owning gestures and
Yeah.
yeah.
I think, what do I think? I think, yeah, maybe it's another level to your branding where you own a gesture or an action. I think KFC probably rolled over on the finger licking goods. It's not like you're licking other people's fingers. Do you know what I mean? If you've got COVID on your fingers, you're probably going to get COVID. Do you know what I mean? Whether you're eating, and if you're eating fried chicken, you're probably
Well,
your defense systems
if,
are going to be.
yeah, if you go into their store, buy some chicken, eat it, lick your fingers, and then touch anything, that's probably worse than anything you could do with the pandemic. So they just basically said, let's just limit the places where your tongue has been. And so, um, and encourage instead that you don't lick your fingers clean, you wash your hands. Yeah.
I think
So
that rolled over too easy. They lost 60 years of marketing on that in 2 years. It's insane. Okay, what they're saying about, in short, the word crazy often offends people struggling with mental illness, as well as those without, thereby trivializing very real conditions, undermining their individual experiences and contributing to harmful stereotypes. But I think what they're saying here is, sorry, there was something else. I think the offence is when you call somebody crazy. So if there is a phrase in common parlance like crazy might work, I don't think that's offensive. I think you have to direct it at somebody for it to be offensive. You think?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's another definition also in Oxford Dictionary about um, an idea that is silly.
Yes.
Um, but I think calling ourselves silly might work is an option. but
Yeah, but how long is
um,
it before the word silly then becomes offensive to people?
yeah, yeah. So that was the kind of discussion that was generated in considering what we should do about our name, and it was the reason why people have come to us who are completely unknown to us. We've had customers from all over the world, Germany, the UAE, and others who've said we chose you, we found you, we liked you because of your name.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think it's a great name. I think it's a really good name. Not because it has anything to do with anyone's mental health, but because it is a phrase that's in common parlance. And I'm kind of surprised that it was available to you. I'm kind of surprised that nobody else picked it up before.
yeah, and look, we have clients who work in mental health and mental health nurses and so forth. Health is our major sort of sector that we work in. One of the awards we were nominated by that. So it's all, we do mental health in the workplace roundtables and things. So we're very much of the mind of supporting anything that increases mental well-being. So that's the irony of it. But yeah, but I definitely think we want to stop at the name and not try to find some weird gesture because that could
Yeah, I
really
think
go.
you're going to struggle with a gesture for crazy. I think you're really going to struggle. But listen to this. This makes it even stronger. You could tell people this if anyone ever challenges you ever again. They're talking about the word's etymology. Crazy comes from the root word craze, which, according to Merriam-Webster, was first used in the 14th century to mean break or shatter, which is what you do, isn't it? You break or shatter the existing massive
Wow.
innovation. Around 1812, people began using craze to describe an exaggerated and often transient enthusiasm. So I think your enthusiasm is pretty real.
Wow.
And the word's association with mental illness is believed to have originated only in 1867.
1867, right.
Yeah, so
So,
basically the word was in use for 400 years before it was ever used to describe somebody's mental health condition.
thank you, Martin. What a gift.
What a
Oh,
gift.
look that up. Craze. I like that. Also, that can mean popular for a short time at least. but
Yeah,
there you are.
I'm going to send you this link right now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, right. So
Okay,
that's the
good.
winning gestures.
Yeah,
And it is kind of quirky. There's, they give a few examples in there, facial expressions, body language, but I kind of like the anchor of of body language being such a strong communicator, and if you can own a gesture in that, that could be stronger than anything else. So
yes. And I still think, and you're never going to convince me otherwise, that KFC rolled over on the finger looking good way too easy. Way too easy. And I think,
should have doubled
yeah, good. All right, we're not giving health advice here, but, I still think finger looking good chicken is, amazing. Okay, good. Should we go to the last story? We're making it, Melanie Farmer.
down.
We're making it. We really
Getting
are.
it.
Okay,
It's
good.
getting late.
So I don't even know how much of a marketing story this is, because I think all of this crypto stuff is a distraction and it's associated with marketing, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. The Metaverse housing bubble bursting. Virtual land prices crash 85% amid waning interest. The Metaverse sector is witnessing its very own housing crisis moment thanks to massive declines in the prices of its virtual lands in 2022, led by waning users' interest and a crypto bear market. Cryptos are crashing. In particular, Metaverse projects built on the Ethereum blockchain, including the Sandbox and Decentraland, have witnessed substantial declines in their valuations and other key metrics. I actually read this. Oh, that's all there is it? No, continue reading on Cointelegraph. What's interesting about this is they don't ever state the amount of land, like the dimensions of the land. And of course, here, the average price of land sold across Decentraland peaked at 37,238 in February 2022. That was only 5 months ago, 6 months ago. But as of August the 1st, their costs had dropped to an average of $5,163. So they're just talking about average sale price. So, but they're not talking about the dimensions because, of course, there are no dimensions because it's not real. So is it any wonder this is the definition of an investment bubble? People investing in stuff that isn't real. Of course, it's a bubble, and it doesn't matter how big it is because it's not real. So are they just buying smaller plots of land now? People are still buying it. Are people encouraged now that it's going to be? Then now it's $5,000 instead of $35,000.
I've got to send you a link to a nice graph that is from Crypto Slate on this. Hang on, I'm just replying to your email, right? Okay. So apologies, listeners and viewers, for us just like tweeting each other while you watch, but hopefully that'll come through. Let me get sent on. Let me see. Yeah. All right. So this graph I'm looking at that I've just sent you, it says Metaverse meltdown. But what's interesting, there's one investor bought a virtual plot next to Snoop Dogg for $450,000. Someone is spending $450,000. So I mean, I wonder if there's this perception that you can live next door to Snoop Dogg, and then you go, no thanks. And that's what's the appeal, somehow the appeal. And you can see over a short time, like really January last year to now, what has happened. This huge drop.
Well, huge gain and then huge drop. So literally October kicks off, November, well, already that line's just weird. Where is that? That's December. So 2 months, huge climb, and then not quite so fast, but equally impressive fall.
Yeah, no, I mean, does that mean saturation, happens overnight, or
I don't know what it means.
And people have now bought their land, and now they're just looking at what are they going to do with it. So this is sort of misleading, right? It's just sort of like, well, all the land's been bought, and now they're just going to say, okay, now what are we doing in here? And then it'll go up again. That could happen, but it just that view looks like land is not worth as much, just on black and white.
Not real, Melanie Farmer. It's not real.
And it was, this Metaverse land.
And how do you know? How do you get your land surveyed? How do you know that it's actually next door to Snoop Dogg? Because
what? Yeah, I mean, you might have termites too.
Why are they adjacent anyway? Why is anyone next to anyone else? If it's virtual, it's bothers me a little bit. I mean, I've resisted the urge because I talk about it too much, but the papers are full of Zuckerberg and Meta crashing really hard. They're now under instructions, the employees, they're not to call each other workmates, they must call each other metamates now. And they're doing away with their lunches and other benefits. It's insane what's going on.
Do you think he's losing his mind?
I think he probably lost his mind a long time ago, because how can you not if you find yourself in that situation where you are, I don't know, in your late 20s and you're one of the richest people on the planet? I would imagine that he lost, I don't know what his mental state was before that, but I think they are definitely losing their way in a big way now. Like, seriously. So yeah, so I think this is like, is this comparable to the .com crash from before and around the zeros, the noughties, the, what do we call it?
Yeah.
Y2K. Is this comparable to that? It feels a bit like it. The thing is that the big players, like we spoke last time, Google laying people off, Facebook laying people off, Twitter is clearly a sham. You know, we've resisted the urge to talk about that now, but they are countersuing each other. That's going to be a big thing. This could be, like, it's not going to be as broad, I don't think, as the .com crash, where basically no website was worth anything. But it
Yeah.
seems to me like from the top down, it's getting kind of gnarly, hey?
Yeah. I mean, I think this it's all in the end. Value is perception and all of that. So, but I mean, it's one to watch, and I'm not surprised, honestly. Um, you know, it's a sort of it is a get rich quick. That's how it feels. Like get in, and then you get in there and you're the only one, and you've spent like I just can't believe that a person spent $450,000, to live ostensibly next door to Snoop Dogg. I just think,
But what does it
that
tell us
it's not.
about, like, and now at the same time, we're supposed to believe people who are rich are like the cleverest, most deserving people in society, and somebody with 450,000 spare dollars is buying virtual land because it's next to Snoop Doggy Dog. You know, it's like,
Don't forget that
what's his
the
name, Snoop Doggy
those who
Dog?
are,
Why do I sound like I'm
you
70 years
you
old
can
when I
be
say
a
Snoop Dogg?
you can be a 15-year-old influencer and have $450,000 to spare, living at home with mum. Like, you could be that. You can be someone who has just been on reality TV. But you can be an influencer. It's a whole thing. You can be so. There are people with money that might not have thought it through, but there's also, if you're in good company, it's a bit like the emperor's new clothes. That if people who you would know and trust are saying this is real, then you can be sucked into that world if you live in that world and go, alrighty then, let's invest.
Yeah. But
Where
I'd
are your
say
financial advisors?
how much credibility are these people with all this money going to have if they are just, I mean, the whole thing for me just smacks of people having too much money. And I don't speak to people I know who, I saw an article, it was talking about things people give their life over to. Like, so you can't just be someone who invests in Bitcoin. Like, you give your whole life over to Bitcoin. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah,
cryptocurrencies or
yeah,
NFTs or whatever it is. So I don't talk to them anymore because one person I know is doing really well, hedging stuff every day, making good money. Somebody else I know got completely wiped out. Somebody else I know has had significant losses, changed to their lifestyle. You know, it's, yeah, I think the reality of the economic situation is people are going to stop dicking around with stuff that isn't real. I've just been looking at the definition of virtual, and it seems like it's changed because virtual used to mean like almost, like it's almost something. Do you know what I mean? Virtually,
yeah.
he's virtually a professional athlete, or do you know what I
It's
mean? But
virtually,
yeah,
but not quite.
yeah. So, but yeah, it doesn't mean what it used to. Now it almost means created by a computer to look real. Virtual definition. Virtual definitions, almost or nearly as described, but not completely or according to strict definition.
Well,
In
virtually,
computing, not physically existing as such, but made by software to appear to do so. I don't think it does. Software doesn't make things appear to exist. Carried out, accessed, or stored by means of a computer. Virtual library. That's what they got.
yeah. Well, interesting. I think we're at the edge of language changing, just like we've talked about crazy. That the word virtue means truth and real and all of that, like a virtuous person.
Yes.
And so I do wonder if it's like virtual means truthful, looks real, appears real, virtual. So and it's moving away from it meaning truth to true-ish, something like that. So I like the idea that we're just at the edge of the word being co-opted and meaning something different to what it did
Yes. A little bit
moments
like the
ago.
word vaccine. They change it really quick sometimes, don't they, when it suits them to do so. Melanie
Yeah.
Farmer, we made it through this.
Right, yes. To the benefit of I don't know who, but let's see. I tell you what, though, interesting, and I want to see I would like to see Joe Rogan do a podcast where he's interviewing all sides of privacy and get to the
Yes.
bottom of that.
Well, I think you might see me doing that first. I'm gonna
Good.
drag my friend Kiru on. I can't believe he's the head of cybersecurity, but he is. There we go. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
Well, if you want an introduction to my professor, I'm sure she'd be happy to have a chat with you,
That
Canadian
would be
lady.
awesome. Yes, because I interviewed you on my podcast before I was asking people for referrals, so you probably do owe me a couple of referrals.
Yeah, I think I gave you a couple, but I think Alana would be an amazing. She might have been one of them, but she's knows her stuff. She's pretty senior academic in that world, and likewise, we're keen to get more people on our podcast too. So
Super cool.
we'll swap names, and I'll send you some times for Paul.
Okay, cool. Well, let's do
Your
that
fa-
now. I will, and we'll put it in the diary right now. So let's say goodbye for the benefit of anyone who's watching still. Let's apologize that we weren't 100% on our game today, especially me. You've done fantastically well. You're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for being here.
Farewell.